I have a clip from GB News which shows one of the left-wing commentators who annoys people so much, called Matthew Stadlen. Now, Matthew's an intelligent chap. He's obviously a Labour Party activist, and he does have very, very good talking points. Now, I'm going to play the clip for you, and you can make up your own mind about what you think about all of this. But I wanted to raise a point about being stuck within a paradigm of thought and not being able to break out of it, and having to have every single argument line up for you, and what a mistake that is in the search for truth in our very, very complicated world.
Over 1 million foreigners are receiving universal credit. If you add that up, it's over £1 billion, £1 billion every single month to foreigners who haven't paid a penny into society here, and yet we pay them. I just don't understand this country. I really don't.
Well, I don't think there's any other country that would do that and place such an unfair burden on the British taxpayers.
Yeah,
do you think it
who
is?
themselves won't be benefiting from the whole pot in comparison here.
Yeah, because you don't get the equal sort of return in a way.
No.
Like the way they treat boat migrants who've come here who are children, supposedly children, because we're not allowed to check their actual age. There's no compulsory check, and the Labour government didn't put that in. The Conservative wanted to do that. Is very different to the way they treat the children from children's homes in this country. Yeah. So in a children's home, you'd probably be released at 16 and sent out, whereas you come on a boat and you say that you're very young, they'll nurture you all the way through till about 25.
So here's the question. Should universal credit exist to help anyone living in Britain who is struggling? This morning we're asking, should migrants be able to claim universal credit at all? Joining us, the founder of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity, Stephen Wolfe, and political commentator Matthew Stadlen. Matthew, what do you think of the situation?
Eamon, you just said that these 1.2 million people have paid not a penny towards the British state, and that's complete nonsense. Plenty of these people will have paid money into the British state.
Where?
700,000 of these people are EU citizens, many of whom will have been paying tax. Universal credit is a credit that you get if you are on a low income. So that includes people who are working. And so many of these people will have been paying taxes potentially for years and years and years. Yep. Tax and welfare should go hand in hand. I don't know what you're suggesting, Eamon, whether you want...
Look, I don't know. You're the expert. I'm telling you that 16% of people on universal credit in Great Britain were foreign nationals, right? So you interpret it the way you want. As far as I'm concerned, they don't seem to belong to this country, but obviously you'll contradict me and say otherwise. Let's have your friend's opinion on this opposite you.
Stephen.
Good morning, Eamon. Matthew is correct in the sense that he says that 700,000 people who are claiming this could well be non-EU citizens, but he has no evidence, because there is no figures from the ONS, the OBR, the Home Office, or the Department of Security, Social Services that identify whether these people are actually working at the same time. So the figures he gives to you in that sense are completely bogus. And it's a shame, because I know that he wants to try and be accurate in this. But the principle about this is, secondly, that you can't claim universal credit in this country if you're non-UK citizens for 5 years unless you have a right to reside, indefinite leave to remain. And what you have is over 500 to 600,000, I would estimate nearly 700,000, who fall within that category. And those people have not paid any money into our social security network, either through income tax or national insurance or any other form of tax. So the question is, out of the nearly 20% of universal credit costs of 12 billion a year, should they be entitled to that? The answer to that for many people will be no, because you then add 10 billion a year, which is going to be the cost of asylum and immigration, housing those who are coming across. And we know from yesterday's news that we add another 7 billion for the 24,000 Afghans that will add to the 100,000 in total, a city the size of Oxford, that will come in the next year. So we're looking at a bill there of £29 billion a year to cost those who are non-UK citizens.
Matthew, look, often when you go to visit another country, so Australia or other countries, they will make sure that when you come there as a foreign national, you can completely support yourself so that you are not a burden on the people in that country. So it begs the question, if they are on low incomes and they're foreign nationals, surely they should be able to support themselves, shouldn't have to claim benefits if they're coming to this country to deliver a service of some kind or if they're working. You know, it just doesn't seem right that they come here and we're going to subsidise their income. Most countries wouldn't do that for you.
Of course, we want people who come to this country to contribute. And as I've said, and contrary to what Eamon has said, a lot of the people we're talking about here, of the 1.2 million, will be contributing to this country. Many will have families. And the idea that we strip them of benefits when they are fully entitled to be here.
But they shouldn't be. Yeah, but they might be entitled to be here.
Let me answer the question, because you've invited me as a guest on your show.
But just because they're entitled to be here doesn't mean they should.
We don't want to push people. We don't want to push families into poverty. And if you've been here for a long time and you are on low income, then you should be entitled to benefits in the same way that we are. I am a taxpayer. I don't want to pay my taxes to people who don't deserve it. But many, many of these people will be fully deserving of this credit. Nothing I have said is bogus. We are a civilized society, and we should not distinguish in the way that is being suggested.
Yeah, we're a civilized society, but we're not stupid.
These people are refugees.
But sorry, you can't just go on a run. Listen, I heard what you're saying. I'm just challenging you. You can't just go on a run. You know, I've got something to say to you as well. Look, we are a civilized society. We always have been, and we always will be, and that's how we are. But that's not the point. The point is, you've come to somebody else's country. You should be able to support yourself. Those, especially
100,000 of these people, Nana, that we're talking about roughly, are refugees who are fully entitled to be here. Presumably, you want them to live in extreme poverty, because if you take their benefits away, that's what very well could happen.
I want them to work, is what I want them to do. If you've come here and you're allowed to be here, then you need to work and you need to put money into the system before you get given something out, whether you're a refugee or any other.
Many of them will be working. Many of them will be working.
And you don't get benefits. You should have to put
working.
No, you shouldn't just be given that, because people in this country don't get that either, so I don't see why.
Yes, they do. If you're working on a low income...
Yeah, but if you went to another country, you wouldn't get that, though. You go to another country and try that, you won't get it. Well, if you could name another country... Listen, I've got to go. Sadly, I'm not going to get an answer to that, but Matthew Stadler, thank you very much. And also Stephen Wolf.
Stephen Wolf, thank you very much indeed. Matthew Stadler proving to be the... I think the reason a lot of people will absolutely say that they shouldn't get credit in this country.
So let's get the obvious things out of the way first of all. Is it okay for the British taxpayer to be paying over £1 billion a month to foreign nationals who haven't contributed anything to our economy, and expect the British taxpayer to swallow that, smile and keep going on with their day? Well, the answer to that is no. No thank you, I don't want to do that, don't see why I should do that, and in fact, no country in the world is that stupid, that open to being defrauded in a way, and it beggars belief really, and I'm in full agreement with what Eamon Holmes said at the very start of that. Only in this country would we do that. One further thing presented by Mr. Wolf there, which I thought is interesting, is the lack of transparency and statistics provided by our government departments on this very issue. And isn't it funny that the Office for National Statistics, the Office for Budget Responsibility, the Home Office, the Department for Social Services, all of those huge government bodies there that are there to service us with all of the correct data, none of those places seem to have any information on how many of these people have worked, how much have they previously contributed to the system, and is this a good deal for the British taxpayer? And the reason why you're not getting any of those numbers is because it isn't a very good deal for the British taxpayer. In fact, it's an awful deal. Most, if not a very, very high percentage of these people have never worked in this country, have never given us any reason to give them any money. And, you know, it's a disgrace, really, that the government keeps hiding these details from us. Now, to move on from that, I did want to touch on a topic which I think is really, really important, and that's called confirmation bias. Now, confirmation bias is something that all humans have. It's something that's within us, and it's therefore an evolutionary and psychological reason, because it's helped us to get where we are. And this isn't, an evolutionary biology channel by any means. And if you are interested in the topic, have at it, and I'm sure you can do some research of your own. But with regard to political debate, which is what I do here, confirmation bias is present in everything. Now, Matthew Stadlen there, make no mistake, Matthew is an intelligent chap. He's thought through his position in depth, and he's, to all intents and purposes, devoted his life to what he's doing here. And when you watch Matthew, you get the very, very specific feeling that he's not just producing sound bites, he believes in what he's talking about. He knows within himself that he believes in, for instance, mass migration. He thinks it's a great idea. He can't see any problem with it, and that's his position, and that's fine with me. But I think within that debate there that you just saw on GB News, you saw confirmation bias, and it's present even in intelligent people. And what confirmation bias does, in effect, it places a filter over you, and it's a little bit like wearing a pair of goggles. There's a lens goes over the top, and it allows you to filter the world in ways that you wish to see it. And what people end up doing is they tend to filter facts and information through this lens in order to further their own argument. So you can give the same piece of information to one person on one side of the argument, and you can also give the same bit of information to somebody on the other side, and they'll both end up using it in a positive way towards their own arguments. And this is one of the things to be aware of as a human. As a human, you want to try your best. It's impossible to do, but you should try your best to avoid confirmation bias, because although it makes you feel good in the moment, and although it allows you to further your own position, ultimately what it does is it distorts objective truth. So I'm in search of the truth. I love philosophy. I love politics. And so I'm searching all of the time for what I believe to be philosophical, political truth. And I don't want my truth to be distorted. I don't want to look at things and just immediately jump on it and go, that's how it is, and become so embedded in what I'm thinking as to lose all sight of what's real. Because in doing that, we stop using critical thinking. And when we stop using critical thinking and we undermine the scientific method, all it does is it just fuels polarization and anger. There are lots of biases. I believe there's a list of 10 to 15 biases. I haven't checked that for quite a while, last time I looked at that. But there are a list of human biases that we all know about. And these biases, in effect, remove us further and further from truth, the more and more we go down the rabbit hole. And we can use that debate that we've just witnessed on GB News there to highlight what I'm talking about. Matthew wants mass migration. Stephen Wolfe presented him with some figures and statistics, and he argued and shook his head. He'd lost that particular battle. Now, will he win the war? Who knows who's going to win the war? But on that very, very specific point, Matthew didn't have a leg to stand on. And what happened? He came out and started getting angry. He got angry, shaking his head, stamping his feet almost in a philosophical way, arguing with both of the presenters, saying, "Oh, Eamon, this is silly." I forget the word that he used, and he was arguing with the Nana woman as well. And this is what happens. When you see things through a lens and you're arguing, it's plain for all to see who's watching this happen, that when you allow confirmation bias to take over, that it in effect weakens your own argument and diminishes you as a person. And within all of this, we don't have to win every argument. I believe in my heart that mass migration is a terrible idea for this country. And when I've looked at all of the facts stacked up, I personally believe that it's going to ruin our country. Economically, demographically, culturally, historically. I believe all of those things, looking at all of the evidence. But will I win every battle? Should we win every battle? Will every point that I look at point in the right direction? And the answer to that is obviously not. But in general terms, I believe I'm right. And I just thought that was interesting as I was watching Matthew there. Confirmation bias popped into my head, and I generally thought he was making a fool of himself, and it's quite sad to watch an intelligent person, even somebody who, I kind of dislike, like Matthew Stadlen. I've watched him tons of times on GB News, but even somebody like that who's intelligent, they diminish themselves by acting like a moron, really. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that, and have a good day. All the best now.